Say, have you ever wondered just how many people work on TF2? I have. I've heard lots of people say different numbers, like they used to say 32 people work on the game, and then 20, and then 12, and then 5, but nothing ever really added up. So my question is, how many people do work on the game? Now the problem with answering that question is that Valve never really discloses much about their games, or their employees, so we have no idea exactly who works on TF2. But in an AMA with Gabe Newell on R the Gaben, a Valve employee named Driller said that the TF2 team has 16 people in it. Oh, that answers my question, doesn't it? Thank you very much for watching, see you in the next video, bye! Okay, I'm just kidding. Obviously, he said that those 16 people includes programmers, artists, writers, level designers, and sound engineers. So not everyone is working on the game directly. But then, who does work on the game? Well, to answer that question, I decided to investigate it a little bit. First, let's look at all the people that we definitely know are on the TF2 team. There's 2 known employees. Jill, also known as VJill, and Dave Riller, aka Driller. You know, the guy from the AMA. Let's begin with Jill. Jill constantly communicates on Reddit and Facepunch about TF2. He explains certain bugs and changes and says that they'll fix stuff. So we can definitely nail down his position to programmer. He also says "we" a lot, even cross-posted the casual mode update and has about 4,000 hours in TF2, so we can be sure that he's pretty close to the game. The next guy is Dave Riller, aka Driller. He answered questions about TF2 in the AMA, and in those answers he said "we" a lot, like "we can't promise a major update, we sometimes forget to communicate." That "we" implies that he's part of the TF2 team. Now, it is possible that he's a programmer, it is not confirmed anywhere, but I think that he is a programmer because it just seems likely. So, now we know that out of 16 people, 2 are working on the game, that means 14 are left. But how do we find out about them? Well, as I said, not everyone works on the game directly. I mean, the artists won't balance pyro and the writers won't fix any bugs or anything. So let's change the question. Who doesn't work on the game? The artists, the writers, and the sound engineers. So we're trying to find the programmers and the level designers, because those impact the actual gameplay. Okay, let's begin with the artists and the writers. If we look on the TF2 wiki at Who Makes the Comics, there's 2 artists that are constantly being mentioned. Heather Makani Campbell and Maren Melmella. There are other artists, but they're sort of on and off again, like Rennerei for example. They were the artists for 2 comics, Gargoyles and Gravel and Showdown, the last comic being slightly recent. But it's not too likely that they're one of the main artists, so I'm not going to count them. Now, let's look at Makani. Makani was the artist for almost every single comic in the TF series. Maren Melmella, on the other hand, was the artist for about half the comics and the colorist for about the other half. From that we can conclude that both work on the comics and not the game. The writers are Jay Pinkerton and Eric Wolpong. Both worked on almost every single comic, and not even just the TF comic series, but also Gargoyles and Gravel. They're pretty much where the humor for TF2 comes from, but they also don't work on the game directly. So, quick summary, out of 16 people, 2 work on the game and 4 not so much. That means that there's 10 people left. Okay, now I'm really sure about these numbers I just mentioned, but from here on out, it's all speculation, so don't quote me on this, I may be wrong about all of this. I'm just listing some people that possibly work on the game. For some it's very likely, for others not so much. Before I begin, keep the following thing in mind. When Uncle Dane visited Valve HQ and the TF2 team told him about the future of the game, they also said that all TF2 team members play the game. That is important, keep that in mind. Okay, our first candidate is Tony Paloma, aka Drunken Fool. He worked previously on Source OP and TF2 items. 5 years ago he did an AMA on Reddit in which he said that he joined the TF2 dev team after destroying the game twice before. What he means by that is that he created an idling system and manipulated the item drop times for the gold wrench, giving himself and his friends one. He even got backbanned for that. Valve ended up hiring him and his new job was that of a programmer. He said he wanted to work on gameplay changes, items, etc. and then he would work on TF2 to start, which means that he might have moved on to other games, but if we take a look at his Steam profile, it shows that he plays TF2 regularly and even played it recently. And remember what I said earlier? All TF2 team members play the game? Well, if that's true, then this could be evidence. If we look at his backpack, we can see that he owns a community knife and this Spicicle. Now, what's so weird about this Spicicle, you might ask? It's called Pinky Piecicle, it's pony reference. Well, look who gifted him that. Oh, it was Jill. Alright, our next candidate is John McDonald, aka Mech John. 1 year ago, he posted a lot of comments on our TF2 and said, even though he was using an alt account, that he read the subreddit posts quite regularly. He explained some glitches, answered questions about issues, and said that he wants to fix exploits. We can nail down his job to programmer, but he's not a network engineer, which he said so himself. He even said we are aware of performance concerns like Jill, and that we implies that he means that he was part of the team, at that point in time at least. But after a while he talked only on our global offensive and about CSGO until about a month ago, and then he just stopped. So maybe he switched teams over to CSGO, or he works on both TF2 and CSGO simultaneously, or he still works on TF2 and just stopped communicating altogether. The third candidate is Dario Casali, aka Captain Chaos. Who, you might ask? Well, he worked on Doom, namely the Plutonia experiment and Final Doom, Quake, a lot of Half-Life 1 and 2, Counter-Strike, Left 4 Dead, Portal 2, TF Classic and Team Fortress 2. His role? Level designer. For TF2 he created the following maps: Gold Rush, Badwater, Pipeline, Thunder Mountain, Coal Town and Big Rock. Notice how those last two maps are way more recent than the other ones, and if you keep in mind that Valve said they're working on a new jungle map, maybe Captain Chaos is making it? More evidence is that he played TF2 recently and has about 3,700 hours in TF2. That's almost as many hours as Jill has. Our next guy is Jeff Lane. Jeff Lane was with TF2 since launch and even appeared in the Hydro developer commentary. His listed professions are level designer, game designer, 3D artist, programmer/engineer and graphics artist. But he is nowhere credited for working on TF2 even though he did the Hydro developer commentary. So maybe he works on the game or works on it only sometimes or switches back and forth between different games. Another possibility is Mike Moreschi, which probably all of you know because he's the composer of the TF2 soundtrack. He's also listed as being an animator/visual effects artist, a director and even a programmer. It is very likely that he still works on the TF2 soundtrack because he did it every time so far, so that would make him the sound engineer that Driller mentioned. He might even be a programmer and visual effects artist, but I'm not sure about that. Now, one more guy I would like to mention is Harry101 UK, which many of you probably know from his YouTube videos. This isn't really likely, but it is possible because 2 years ago he said that the TF2 team has 32 people in it. But since then he hasn't really said anything about TF2, so Harry composes music, so if he is still with the team, that would make him another sound engineer like Mike Moreschi. Here's two more possible candidates, Eric Smith and Fletcher Dunn. I didn't find any info on how they were related to TF2, so if you do, please do tell me, but I honestly don't remember why I thought they were relevant, I just put them in there, I guess. Okay, now, let's look back at what Driller said. Driller said that the TF2 team consists of 16 people, including programmers, artists, writers, level designers and sound engineers. So I think that the programmers are Jill, Driller, Drunken Fool and Mech John. The artists are Makani and Marmala, who work on the comics, and Jeff Lane, who is a 3D artist and game designer. The writers are Jay Pinkerton and Eric Wolpor, the level designer is Captain Chaos, and the sound engineer is Mike Moreschi. So my conclusion for my findings is that in total there are at least 5 people directly working on the game, that is programming and level design, and 6 people work on writing, art design and sound. Now, I may be wrong about all of this is just speculation, I'm not guaranteeing any of this to be true. I would also like to mention that just because someone is an artist or writer or sound engineer, that doesn't mean they don't contribute to the game. Of course they contribute to the game. I mean, writers can write voice lines and contracts and the artists can draw textures and make models, but they don't change the gameplay necessarily, and this video was more focused on the game and who works on it. But that is just 11 people in total, so 5 people are still unknown. I didn't find anything out about them, so really it could be anyone. Some jobs weren't even mentioned in Driller's reply, like model designers and animators and SFM artists. Maybe he included them as artists, I don't know. We can never be 100% sure about all of this. We can only theorize unless Valve directly says who is working on the game. I'm happy about my discoveries though, because it is good to have at least an idea of how many people are involved. Also, more programmers don't make the game automatically better. I mean, look at Dwarf Fortress, it was made by just 2 guys and it's a great game. I hope I gave some insight on the topic and maybe could even answer the question a little bit. If I am correct, then quite a lot of people work on TF2, which means that maybe the Pyro update won't be so bad after all, right? If you find out any new information on this, please do tell me, just write it in the comments, send me a message, and if I have more evidence, then maybe I'm gonna make a second video on it. But that is it for now. Tell me what you think about my findings, I would like to thank you very much for watching, and goodbye, have a wonderful day!